Perfect. Wonderful. Came back to the right side.
Okay.
I think we're good.
I think you're good to go. I'm seeing the kicks plus chips on the RTX 3080 right there.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're about to begin then.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Kicks and Chips, an investigation into scalper bots.
So, hello, everyone. This is Mathieu Gaucheler. I am a subject matter expert at Montego. I focus on malware analysis, and as you can probably tell by my accent, I am French, but I live in Barcelona.
And I am Liv Rowley. I am also a subject matter expert at Montego. My research primarily focuses on cybercriminal investigations, primarily on the deep and dark web, and I am also Barcelona-based. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to start with a quick introduction to scalper bots in general, so just everyone kind of has a baseline for what we're talking about. Next, we're going to go into the technical details about how these bots actually work. After that, we'll take a look at the bot landscape, so questions such as pricing and where they're being sold. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways.
So, why this talk? Well, at the beginning of this year, I was looking to buy a graphic card to build a gaming PC. However, the lack of supply at the time and the rise of demand provoked by the pandemic, as well as the rise of Bitcoin prices, made it a very interesting target for scalpers. And I wasn't able to buy any GPU. So on the lower left of these slides, you have a quote from PCMac.com talking about how the launch of the GeForce RTX 380 went and how a good portion of the graphic cards were bought by people using bots to buy them before anyone else and then resell them on eBay and other websites. So as you can see, the scalpers were reselling the GPUs at around 3 times retail price, which is quite a lot of money. So that is part of why we wanted to know and learn what was going on with these bots.
The bots that most people are probably most familiar with are ticket scalper bots. Those have been around for a long time. They're kind of the OG scalper bot. We found references to them all the way back to 1999. And here we have a graph showing Google Trends results for searches for ticket bot, sneaker bot, and GPU bot. So you can see the interest in ticket bot has been the most enduring, but there's been significant increase in interest for all these different bot types over the past few years. One thing we think that is fueling that is just general accessibility. These aren't that difficult to find, these type of bots anymore. For this investigation, we surveyed 46 different bots, primarily sneaker bots. So that's where a lot of the research that we're going to present comes from. And it's also to note that these bots are operating in a legal gray area. There's not a lot of laws and regulations that explicitly make this activity illegal, though it is often a terms of service violation for the retailers that they're targeting. But in the past few years, or past several years, there has been definitely an increase in government interest in curtailing this activity. For instance, in parts of the US, ticket bots are now illegal, and the EU has rolled out legislation trying to curtail this activity, specifically around ticket botting as well. So what are the common targets of these scalper bots? As we talked about, tickets are definitely a very common target. Also collectibles such as trading cards and stuffed animals, other types of stuff that is maybe only available in a limited quantity. Sneakers is a big one. This has been talked about in the media for a couple of years now, especially around exclusive or limited releases. And as Mathieu mentioned before, GPUs and other electronics such as the new Xbox and stuff like that. The images that we have on this slide, these have come from quote unquote success accounts. So oftentimes bot users will have either Twitter or Instagram accounts where they boast about their latest acquisitions. So that's where most of these photos here have come from, is directly from bot users bragging about what they've been able to acquire.
All right, so now that we have a general idea of what sneaker bots are, we're going to take a look at how they are operated. So first of all, I'm going to show you really quickly the graphical user interface of a scalper bot. Here you can see it is pretty user-friendly. A few bots are available in command line interface, but that's not the majority of it. Most of them are for people that are not obviously very technical. You don't need to be very technical to use one. As you can see, you have different tabs relating to different kind of aspects that you need to configure to run properly a scalper bot. But the most important one is probably the task all the way on the left. And it's something that you're going to use to list different items you're going to want to buy and try to purchase your bot. So what's under the hood? What technology do these bots use? We don't really know for sure. We couldn't get our hands on one. So we surveyed the bots that are available on GitHub. A lot of bots were made last year to counter kind of the professional paying bots that were used by scalpers. So they were made by people who just wanted to be able to buy a GPU for themselves because there were no other way to get one at the time, maybe. So a lot of them are available on GitHub, following the line of fair game that you have on the slide. If everyone is botting, then no one is botting. So what do you have in use in these bots? You have some browser mimicking tools, or at least driver that can pilot a browser, such as Selenium, because you need to be able to run JavaScript. You need to be able to fill forms. Simply using curl is not going to cut it. You also need to have some CAPTCHA solving capabilities, such as dev by CAPTCHA, that is going to connect your app to a CAPTCHA farm somewhere with real humans solving the CAPTCHA. Or you have some automated libraries, such as Amazon CAPTCHA, that is going to automatically try to solve the CAPTCHA. Then you need to be able to manage cookies when doing requests to make your bot simply more human-like, more realistic. That's why you have this Python package on the screen. But of course, retailers have been trying to fight these bots because they are in violation of the term of service. And we're going to take a little look at what countermeasures were applied by retailers so far. So we've seen retailers using cookies. This one pretty trivial, but pretty efficient as well. Just simply using cookies to track the bots across the website and seeing what's their activity, how they evolve in the website, and if their behavior matches the one of a human. Then retailers have also been checking the delivery addresses. You cannot order 50 pair of shoes for the same person. So if 50 pair of shoes are ordered at the same address, that seems pretty sketchy to retailers. Then same thing happens for the IP addresses and for the billing information. If the same debit card is buying 6 PS5, that seems also a little fishy. The last iteration of this countermeasures is actually the Raffle system. So the point of the bots is that they fill forms very fast and they're going to order very fast, faster than any human could. So the Raffle system is you let anyone wanting to buy this item enter their billing information and their delivery information and enter kind of a raffle, a contest. And then after 2 to 5 minutes, plenty of time for the bots to subscribe to the contest, but also for real human to subscribe, you're going to pick a happy few, a certain number of winners that will be awarded the right to buy the actual item. So this kind of negates the point of the bot, which is to fill forms very fast. So that was kind of a response by the reseller. Of course, the bots went then on to counter the countermeasures, and that's what we're going to see next. So the first action they did was some things that are very trivial. For example, scrambling the delivery address. If you live on 2 Market Street, apartment number 5, you can simply say that you live on Market Street, 2nd apartment number 5, or something like this. And it's not going to be exactly the same line. So you would have to actually parse the delivery address, which is something that can be quite difficult sometimes. Another thing that they did to circumvent the cookie use is simply harvesting cookies using different proxies. So they have quite a bit of cookies when they go directly in to buy the item. They already have some fake historic attached to their app, so they look more human-like. Something used to counter the checking of the billing information is simply the use of virtual credit card. So these services are legit services that are just going to connect a unique credit card number, virtual credit card number, to your own credit or debit card. And this is seamless for the retailer. And the retailer has no way of knowing that these credit cards are in reality all tied to the same physical credit card. Then to counter the raffle system, the way that the bots found was simply enter the raffle a lot of time by buying accounts. So for example, here you have a screenshot of Nike accounts that are on sale on the internet. And from what we observed, it varies between $1 or $2 per account. So for example, if you already want to enter a raffle 200 times, you're already flushing down the drain $400. And of course, if you want to enter the raffle with 200 different profiles, you need to have an IP address for each of these profiles and a different one. So these are some of the different category of proxies we could find. Underneath on the slide, you have different some logos of proxy providers, especially targeting sneaker bots. So all of these are these different categories. We didn't check them. These are things that are claimed by the proxy providers. It's interesting to note, however, that depending on the category that you want, you're going to pay differently. So residential proxies are priced by the gigabyte of data, with a rough estimate being $15 per gigabyte. And then ISP and data center proxies are priced by IPs. So the price is ranging from 75 cents to all the way to $3. So if you want to enter with 200 accounts, you're paying $400 already for the accounts, then maybe $600 for the actual IPs. So that's already $1,000 down the drain just to have some more chance of buying the items. Then not something to circumvent a countermeasure per se, but something essential to efficiently running a good sneaker bot or even a collectible bot for that matter are the cook groups. So these are basically communities that you pay to be a part of. These are usually private Discords, and they give you tips on how to run your bot. They give you information on what are the next drops coming. So when are the next item going to be on sale? What is the URL that you're going to have to use to input in your browser? And also what is going to be the resale value of the item. So you can decide if it's worth your time or not. So we found different prices, but they are usually around €30 a month. And the overwhelming majority of the cook groups that we found are US based.
Okay, now let's talk about the bot landscape quickly. So one thing we wanted to look into immediately was the pricing of these bots. We found that bots are often using a subscription model. So there's an initial upfront one-time cost to get the bot. And then there's an additional monthly cost or perhaps a biannual cost, some type of subsequent fee in order to maintain that access. We looked into the pricing of these two costs, so the upfront cost and the subscription cost. The initial payment is an average of around €300, but that can range all the way down from €100 up to $850. And the monthly cost is about €30. The minimum we saw was $850, and the max was all the way up to $100. As a note, we adjusted these prices into euro. The majority of the bots that we looked at had their prices listed in dollars, though some also had their prices listed in pounds and euros as well, which is interesting and could potentially tell us some information about where these bots are being developed and who their users primarily are. And another interesting thing that we saw is that a lot of these bots are often sold out or listed as sold out on their sites. One reason we think that they're often listed as sold out is just in order to keep the supply low. If you have a bunch of competitive sneaker bots being out there in the wild, they're going to become less effective as they compete against each other. And another reason is to not draw attention from the retailers that they're targeting. So if you become the primary bot that's targeting a particular retailer, that retailer will likely look into your bot and find countermeasures tailored to circumvent what your bot is doing. The exclusivity of these bots have led to some odd distortions in the market here. One thing that jumped out to us as strange was there's a resell market for the bots. So we looked at a site called Bot Broker, in which people were reselling sneaker bots. And we have a little price graph over here that shows in black the retail price of the bot. So when you just buy it up front, and then in yellow, the resell price on Bot Broker. So you can see it's tremendously more expensive to get a bot from Bot Broker. And we also saw that there were services that allowed you to rent out a bot. So because they are so expensive, it might not be worth it for people to pay €300 upfront and €30 a month to maintain access. So you can just rent out a bot for perhaps a day that you know that an important release is happening. We were also curious about the cybercriminal element of this. So whether cybercriminals were looking at sneaker bots as well. And here we have a Multigo graph in which we were looking at cybercriminal chatter on different forums. And we can see is 3 clusters of information. And those are the 3 main forums where cybercriminals were talking about sneaker bots. So these are all English language forums. We saw Nold, Hack Forums, and Cracked.to. And these guys were primarily talking about cracked bots, or bots that have been reverse engineered and are now being sold again. And as a profile, we looked at this one vendor called SNKR Bots. They're active on an English language underground forum, and they sell access to a package of 11 different cracked sneaker bots, including Top Secret, TSB, NSB, Soul, etc. The cost of the service is an initial price of $300 and a monthly cost of $30, which is interesting because I mean we're talking dollar to euro here, but that's roughly what we saw as the price for just one bot commonly. So this is what we found on the underground, and we thought that was quite interesting too. Let's see. And then finally, so our key takeaways. The first one that we have is that scalper botting has been around for a long time. As we said, it's been around since at least 1999. And another thing that we'd like to point out is that it's been diversifying. So instead of just targeting tickets and streetwear, it's also starting to target electronics and other items as well.
So the third takeaway we had is that botters are bypassing countermeasures using specialized services such as proxies and VCCs. Of course, we're talking about the countermeasures we saw since we got them from these botters, the scalpers, chatters, and communities. Maybe there are some others that are used by retailers that we don't know about. But the one we know about, they are being circumvented. And the last one, and a pretty ironic one actually, is that the exclusivity of bots has led to a resale market as well as a cracked underground market. So with that, we would like to thank you for attending our presentation, and we will now be taking questions.
Thank you very much. That was interesting. So I've got one question about like, what is the main issue like for companies, and how interested are the companies on fighting these things? Like how many resources they are spending on this? Is this like a big issue for companies? Because like the main like people who get like affected by this are mainly consumers, right? But at the end of the day, the retailers, like they are selling the stuff, right? So it could be like a branding issue or something like that. So I'm interested on, yeah, like who is interested in fighting this?
You can go.
Okay, so yeah, it is very much of a branding issue. because it does not look good for Nike or for Nvidia to have, every time they release a new GPU, to have 1,000 of customers getting very angry on forums and saying that Nvidia is the worst because bots bought everything. So no, these brands, they are making profits, of course, they are selling all of this, but at the end of the day, if they don't do anything against that, they are not really pleasing their customers, which is probably not a good thing on the long term. What resources do they have devoted specifically to fight this? We have no idea. We couldn't get any data on that.
Yeah, I wonder if there are specific teams just dedicated full time on fighting this. But another point that you made, it's something like a lot of companies also don't make money on the hardware that they sell, but they make the money on the services. So if they are the hardware is being taken by scalpers, they are not making money with the services because they are not being used, right? So I guess that's another point why they're not interested on that. All right, so I don't have any questions. I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Great, thank you.